And I would hate to miss this. Amazing. So I don't know if I'm sure that everyone that is following here knows you, Vic, because we hang out a little bit. I don't know if everyone knows this, but we actually met through our Beautiful You Coaching Academy. So we were studying to be coaches together, which is just coming up 4 years ago, or just over 4 years ago now, when that feels like lifetimes ago. And we met via an online community, the same way that so many of you guys are meeting now with your buddies and everyone in the group. Like, we met because of Beautiful You, the online community of that, right? Isn't that so bizarre?
So bizarre, and so wild to think that it's only been 4 years, because we've done so much in 4 years.
Plus the lifetimes that we've had together, my friends. Previous to this one. But yeah, that's crazy time. So for anyone that doesn't know, Victoria, she is a kick-ass person in general, but let's give you some actual, qualifications, shall we say. She's a breathwork practitioner. I don't know if any of you guys follow the O2 Awakening, but Vic actually tours around Australia and the world teaching breathwork with 2 of our friends as well for the O2 Awakening. So you might have heard that. I know some of you guys have actually been to that. Give a little shout out if you've been to any of Vic's amazing breathwork.
So cool if I've met some of you in person at a workshop.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you would have. You're a one-on-one coach for Badass Humans on a Mission. Talk to me about that.
So I do deep coaching for humans that are somehow trying to make a difference in the world through their businesses. And really, I'm a strong believer that our success and our impact is an extension of our own inner work. Mm-hmm. So in my coaching, I help people deep dive into that deep inner work, let go of what's not serving them. And then that plays out into not only how awesome they feel every day, but their success in their work and the impact it has in the world.
So good. And do you know why I'm so excited for everyone to learn from you, Vic, and why I'm constantly learning from you is you have the strongest integrity out of pretty much anyone that I know. Like, what you talk about, you are like a living, breathing, it seeps from you when you talk about inner success, your meditation practices, committing to your breathwork practices, everything. Like, you inspire me so much with how ninja you are with those practices, and everything you speak about, you embody that hardcore. And I know that's really important to you as well. Like, you don't just talk the talk, like you are in the work all the time. More layers, right? Like, never ending.
It's the only way we can bring real change. And I just had a breakdown and then awakening. It's always a little breakdown before the awakening and the whole insight moment. But it was a few years ago, and it was just kind of like, what am I trying to shift in the world, and how am I doing it? And it just felt like everything that I was talking about was just talk. And it just dropped in so deeply that this is our primary vessel of change right here. This is what we have the most influence over. This is where we can have the most impact, and everything else just is an extension of what's happening in here. So from there, I really committed to practice first and then preach, embody first and then share with the world. And it's just been amazing in terms of how grounded I feel in my mission. Like, nothing will stop me or shake me. Nothing. Because I know what I'm doing, and I'm doing it every single day. It's not just some airy fairy talk. I'm grounded in it. So it's a really beautiful feeling.
And I want to just touch on that, because that feeling, how strong you feel in your alignment, in your practices, how grounded you feel in your mission, that, things can knock you, but not that far that you know where you're going. When did that actually change? Because that's really different for both of us from when we first met, right? We weren't as, let's say, as focused, maybe not as focused, but as strong. Like, we were still going through self-doubt and still do, but big time at the start, when you've got a mission so far away, or it feels so far away and it feels so big, but there's this part of you that's like, I have to do this. Like, I just got to keep going. But how did you what do you feel shifted for you to get into that rock solid, let's call it alignment, now compared to when you first started your journey? Because a lot of people that'll be tuning in here are in that quite overwhelming stage where it's like, I know I'm here to do something, and they might actually be clear on what that is, but it's like still feels so out there that can stop them in their tracks. They can procrastinate, they can go into their perfectionism, and it just feels like nothing, like feels so far away all the time. So can you like riff on that a little bit in regards to your journey or where that kind of shifted?
Yes, definitely. This is big. So for me, it shifted when I had reached some like mild success. Like I was supporting myself, loving what I did with my clients, things were moving, but I wasn't where I wanted to be. As I'm sure so many of you on this call can relate to, just this feeling like a frustration. And I was just looking at the content I was creating online, what I was saying, and I almost just like rolled my eyes at myself and was just like, Victoria, like it just didn't feel like me.
That's
and it felt like I was trying to be something else, and it felt like icky, but it also felt just like, why? Like just rolling my eyes, like, really? This is what you're spending your time on? There's something so much deeper there. And that sent me into it. It was really confronting. Oh, I feel you, V. Awesome, Melon. Yes. It sent me into a process, as these insights do. And that process was like, okay, if you're not here to be like everybody else, what are you here to be? What do you friggin' stand for, Victoria? What do you care about? If nobody else in the world was like watching your stuff or listening to you, if likes and follows and all of that didn't matter, what would you be wanting to create from your belly? What do you stand for? And so I just went off social media for like a week and went into a deep dive in terms of what are my values?
Yeah.
How am I not living those every day? Getting really honest with myself, which wasn't fun in the moment.
Yeah.
It was big. How am I not living those every day? And also, what is this vision that I see for humanity? You know, we all talk about like changing the world, and my work is going to change the world. Change it to what? That's a question so few of us actually tune into. Like, what do we see? Say our work, it changed the world. We did all of our work. Like, what is that world that we imagine? And how can I be a living, breathing version of that world every day? So it was a real deep dive into my own mission. And then once I anchored into that, got real with myself and asked myself, okay, how can I start living this every day? Then I was in my own lane. And other people's lanes had nothing to do with me. Why would they have anything to do with me? I know why I'm here and what my mission is and what I stand for. So that was a huge shift for me.
Yeah, and isn't it funny? I'm sure so many of the women listening can actually relate to this, and me as well on my journey, when you are just feeling like you're just almost going through the motions and saying the stuff you should say. And I know so many women on the call, we've already spoken about this, when you're like saying all the things, but then there's actually this stronger truth that wants to come through, but you're actually like a little bit scared, like, oh, am I allowed to talk about those topics? Am I allowed to say that? And actually, I remember having a conversation, I can't remember who it was with, but how especially when you're first starting out and you start to say things that maybe trigger people or they're different from the identity that people have known you as up until now, that they don't really like it when you start having these conversations or saying things that are going to shake it up a little bit. And that keeps a lot of people in fear, right? Like, it's like, I want to talk about all these things, but then they're going to see me differently, or I'm not allowed to, I'm going to upset someone. So I'll just keep talking about this stuff when there's no actual oomph and energy behind it. And you can tell when people are speaking from freaking sacral, like I always say, you can feel it.
Yeah. Amen. I remember when I used to talk about gratitude, and there's nothing wrong with gratitude. For some people, sharing the message and the power of gratitude is their mission.
Yeah.
So it's not it's not what we're saying. It's, as you said, is this our mission? Is this our fire in our belly? I used to be like, woo, did my gratitude checklist today. Like, just keeping it super mellow because I didn't want to upset anybody. And I love that question that you asked, and it's such a powerful question. And I remember my coach put it to me at one point. If nobody was going to judge you, and if everybody was going to agree with you and be like, heck yes, what would you say then? Because so much of us just shutting down our voice, our truth, our mission is that we're afraid of judgment. So if you just let yourself just ask that question, if everybody was going to rally around what you were going to say and be like, heck yes, what would you say then if you had full permission?
And do you know what the funny thing is, but not so funny? When you do that, when you come from that energy of conviction and clarity and that higher channel, let's say, of what you want to really talk about, and you kind of like let it rip, that's when you find your community cheering for you, like, ah, finally someone's talking about this. Like, I believe in that too, you know, but we think it's the other way around. We like think we need to tiptoe around, then like our community will find us, our like-minded people. But it's like, no. They find you when you take your freaking filter off. Then they can see you and they can feel you and they can hear you. And they're like, oh, you know what? I believe in that too. But no one ever talked about it.
Amen. And we're light workers. You're in the Light Workers Academy. And as light workers, we're anchoring in a new consciousness. We're anchoring in a new way. So we're pioneers. So we might ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I started posting that deeper stuff.
Yeah.
Some of my older friends, they would say things. They're like, "Whoa," like kind of joking, but not joking. They'd be like, well, that was a deep post.
You like, don't know how to respond.
Yeah, exactly. And it would get to me and I was like, it was that kind of weird. But then just one person would comment underneath or send a DM and be like, wow, that was exactly what I needed today. Mm-hmm. Thank you. This isn't shared enough online. And that is what I would focus on.
Yeah, and you like flex that muscle in doing that. Like, it can feel a tiny bit scary, especially when everyone's
scary. Not even tiny bit, terrifying.
Yeah, and I can comment on this, I guess, because I've kind of seen your journey as well, Vic, in the sense of you using your voice so strongly the way you are now. Was you letting go of your people pleasing, your perfectionist identity, your like good girl identity, right? Like, that was massive journey for you. If you want to talk on that, because I'm sure some people feel that, you know?
Huge. Yeah, the good girl one especially. I remember I went through this phase of having to redefine nice because I identified as nice and I want to be a good person and nice. And so it means I have to be kind all the time and don't want to like bump up against anybody. I don't want to, And I was like, no, nice 2.0. It's not doing anybody a favor if I'm coddling them. I'm not here to coddle. Coddling is not nice. We're here to be in our truth. Yeah. So yes, I had to totally redefine nice. And I remember when my Insta changed, it used to be like all smiley photos. And then I started posting some photos that are just like badass in the camera. And it's like, whoa, shit. Somebody's going through a shift.
I remember that happening. I remember all that happening too. And I don't know, I think it was when you first started doing breath work.
That's like exactly when it was.
Started happening. And like, I could feel your energy through your photos. And I was like, girl, what is going on?
Yes, and I want to talk about that for a moment because you said like it can be scary, and it definitely can be scary, and it can feel isolating because what we're doing is letting go of an old way of being, and in doing so, a lot of people around us have gotten used to that way of being. Yeah. So friends, people around us, it might make them uncomfortable. If it's making you uncomfortable, it might be making them uncomfortable as well. Yeah. So it can be really scary, and it can feel a little isolating. So what I find is so important is having at least a few people around us on a similar journey that are there to just cheerlead the crap out of us. Mm-hmm. And it's not weak to need validation. Sometimes it's okay to need validation from your friends. Mm-hmm. And Tracy and I, when we first started this journey, we had calls. It wasn't even every week, Tracy. It was almost like every other day. We would hop on a chat with each other. I don't know if you remember that phase.
A lot. There was
like,
a lot.
Like, you're doing great. You're doing great too. Okay, this is
the blog post was fine. The newsletter was great. The spelling is great.
Exactly. And it's okay to want and crave that support when we're going through big shifts.
Yeah. Which is why we're so lucky to have the access to technology that we do now, because sometimes your like-minded soul tribe or community or family isn't necessarily in your geographic region right now, which can be the big trip up. So that's why it's so beautiful. Like I mentioned on the first call as well, like use our Lightworkers community as practice. Use it to flex your voice and putting your creations out and talking about different things. That's what we have, a soundboard like that as well.
Yes.
So Vic, let's Alex asked a question here that I think you will have some great little insight to. What about when you're getting the downloads, when you're having all this excitement, like, oh shit, there's that clarity I was looking for, and I think I need to create this, or I need to start talking about this, or this idea starts really moving in your body, and you're like, I got to do something about it. And a lot of people will act on that first impulse, and then it's like going okay, but then all of a sudden, like, or the doubt comes in, maybe the inspiration, or they're not as lit as when they first got the idea. So then they start to question it and they get distracted, or maybe I'm not meant to do this. Maybe I was only meant to get this far. Like, is this even what I want? And just all the head talk starts happening. So I'd love to hear your take on that, in staying aligned as your vision keeps expanding and as you keep changing.
Yes. So I think there's this narrative in our industry that as soon as you get the hit of clarity and the idea, that it's supposed to just be this like, now I have the clarity, so I'll just do a little bit of this work, pop it onto my website and bring it to life. And we hardly ever see the behind the scenes of a creation of a book or a course or a piece of art. We hardly ever see the behind the scenes. So we think that other people are just getting the idea and making it happen. Whereas really, when we get the idea, the insight, that's when the co-creation begins. You co-creating with this muse, this idea. And the co-creation, in order for you to bring this to life and make it real, it's going to be a beautiful process of bringing up your stuff. Where is there still fear living in you? Where is there still self-doubt? Where is there still I'm not enough living inside of you? This idea is going to shine the light on it and say, pretty please, can we bring that up and out now and love that and get rid of it? And we misunderstand that as, it's probably not the right idea, or this isn't as easy as I thought it would be, or I'm procrastinating, maybe I'm on the wrong path. So what you can do is when those thoughts start coming up, rather than immediately just assuming that the idea might not be right and that you're failing, see it as an invitation. Ooh, this is inviting me to look at some past pain that wants to be healed right now. What is that past pain? Comparisonitis is a great way of doing that. Being like, how am I comparing myself? What is that I'm still hurting on inside?
Yeah, and it's so true. Like, when you're creating a vision or the next thing, it's like you become that. So that's when you tune into the values, and we're going to learn so much about this in our creativity module, but you start to tune into the energetic values of that idea and that creation, and you have to become that to actually bring it from 5D to 3D. And that's that honesty piece. So if you're bringing in this beautiful abundant vision and you've got money shit and competition and there's not enough all coming up, then you're a mismatch to that vision, and that's why things keep getting blocked, right? So something that comes up for me all the time, and I think this is all creators as well, it's just like, every time I go to put, like when I put Lightworkers out, when I've put out courses in the past, when you put an event out, all of a sudden your little ego consciousness is like, oh, I'm just going to go and snoop around what everyone else is doing, and then from being so clear and open, straight away can be like, oh my God, everyone is doing this. Everyone's going to want to buy their stuff and not mine. Shit, they're way better speaker than me. Oh, they've got a way better website. Oh my God, I'm not doing it now. And it's like, you can go, and this is what people I think forget. All of us go through this, where you can go from being in that clarity to then all of a sudden like, I'm the worst person. This is shit. I can't do it. This is like a daily cycle sometimes as well. And that's why these practices, like you were saying, like tuning yourself first is so important, so you can stay grounded. Otherwise you're up here floating around and like darting your eyes around and getting scattered and not grounding into what you're here to do, right?
Yes. And I think that snooping piece is huge. And what I would invite, if that's resonating with you listening, what I would invite you to do is when you're in creation mode, set strong boundaries around your consumption.
Preach to the choir right now. You know my views on this.
Yeah, because when we're in creation mode, we're tapping into the vision. It's coming from inside, and it's going to be different from how other people are doing it. So we need to be able to really feel into it. Ooh, this is different. And then as soon as we go consume other content, we're like, oh, that's what's already here. Oh, mine should be more like that. So what I do, and I'm not perfect at this at all. What I try to do when I'm in creation mode is be like, no, I'm actually not consuming content. I'm not even going on Instagram as a scroller. I'm going to pop on, post my stuff, pop back out. And I'm not going to look at what other people are doing in the world. I love them, love what you're creating, but I just need to be in my own bubble of creation right now. So I would invite you to set strong as boundaries with that.
Yep, especially if you are the type of person that does easily compare, does easily go into that there's not enough to go around or anything. If you're really working on that, be in the, like, love yourself enough to have those boundaries so that you can just stay so beautifully in the purity of your vision, right? Yes. Like, it's like when you write a book, stop fucking reading everyone's books because then you're going to sound like them. And this is what, let's go back to that voice thing. When everyone's trying to have their voice on social media, it's like everyone's been consuming everyone else's, that you forget the energy of your own voice is so powerful because you're trying to be like, okay, well, they sound like that, or I should say this, or like, they're really badass when they say those words, so I'm going to speak like that, even though that's not how you talk. You know?
So true.
It's such an interesting one. And like you said, love and appreciate and celebrate and support everyone else's work, but make sure there's an energetic boundary between your work and their work.
Yep.
That matrix.
Amen. And I remember my friend was like creating stuff and launching stuff, and I felt bad. I was like, I should be on there every day, like, supporting her. And then I ran into another friend 2 days later, and we were joking about something, and they were like, oh, didn't you see my post about that? And I was like, no, I didn't. I'm like not really on social media right now. And I felt this, like, I felt bad.
Yeah.
I wasn't on there. And then I was just like, nah, I give myself full permission. And I love what you said there, Ale. I allow myself to not consume content when in creation. And you said, Tracy, it's from a place of love. Like, your idea is worthy of this beautiful little cocoon while it's being birthed.
Oh, the creative cocoon is the greatest thing ever. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to make sure that we're up to date. I think some people are asking some things. Have I missed anyone? Unfollowing people who were triggering that in you.
Yes, amen. I've done that before, and I felt so bad. I was like, I love this person. I support their work, but I just can't handle it. And I had to get honest. I was like, I'm not in a place where I'm strong enough to consume their content, even though it's so badass. So I unfollowed them.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love you from afar.
Yeah, exactly. And you can cycle back in when it's needed, right?
Yeah.
So can you just talk to me? We've kind of mentioned it a little bit, but how do you deal, and these practices, what you've already mentioned, are perfect, but what would you say to someone who really is in the comparison or the self-doubt or just the overwhelming crippling fear, knowing that there's something they want to do but just feeling not good enough to do it, or like, just, I don't know where to start?
Yes.
What's your take to that?
First things first, I would just give them permission, especially if it's comparisonitis, to just pause. Just pause stuff. Just stop going online as much as you can for the next little while. Because I remember I always used to like self-flagellate and be like, you should be strong enough, Victoria. Yeah. It's like, no, sometimes we don't have to be strong. We can be in that self-doubt and we can just draw the boundaries. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I would say, especially around comparisonitis, since this is what we've been talking about, is let that be a beautiful nudge and pointer towards, one, what your vision is. Because if something's triggering you, it's probably something that you are excited to bring to life as well. You know, somebody you know just had a TED Talk, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of happy for them, but also kind of feeling like a piece of shit about myself.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, wow, does that mean that that's part of my vision? And I would love to do that? Cool. So that's one thing, is use it as a pointer towards what you're excited to birth into the world. And secondly, use it as a pointer towards, as I said before, what pain, what healing is still not been dealt with inside. Because so many of us have so much childhood shit.
Yeah.
And because we're so freaking conscious and meditate and are on the awakening path, we think we've dealt with it all, but we haven't. And most of the self-doubt, the fear, the comparisonitis that comes up is just stuff from our childhood that we haven't healed. So you can go into it, ask, how am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm feeling like unseen and unheard. Okay, when did I feel that way in my past? And give yourself some time, either on your own or if you want to hire somebody, to heal that. It is possible to heal that.
Yes. And let's talk about that. I think such a strong feeling for light workers, and I actually want to say women right now, is that we have to do everything ourselves.
Yes.
We're conscious, we're aware, we know how to do this. We know, like, this is the ego, right? And it's like, it's so funny because we know this stuff. However, we need to be supported, because otherwise we get to our own glass ceiling.
Yes.
Right? And like that energetic holding space, or whatever it might be, anyone's gifts, whatever they might be, like, we're meant to be supported. We're not light workers out there doing it by ourselves, like struggling, which is most of our story, that we need to struggle by ourselves, rather than opening our heart to, receiving support and backup and sisterhood and all of these beautiful things, right? So what has been big points of your journey? I know you work with a lot of mentors, breathwork's been a big part, but was there anything or what was the support that you had to call in to really up level things? Or when you were really in that, was it always coaching? I know you work really hard on yourself, like you're so disciplined beautifully with that. Disciplined, let's call it.
Ooh, juicy. Never
with
heard
that. So yeah, I'd love to know what support has kind of cycled in with you, and when you know it's time to ask for help and invest in that support, because that blocks a lot of people too, right? Like they might have the money to upgrade or the resources to upgrade or ask for support, but they're still, it's like that wobbly stage of like, I'm not quite there yet, or I'll just try and figure it out first and then ask for help. Yeah.
Amen. Oh my God, this has been huge for me. I tried to do it for so long on my own, and I would feel bad. When you said oh, I know this is the ego, I know this is coming in, I would feel bad that I hadn't just nailed it yet. And that actually came up. I had a coaching client session the other day, and I was mirroring to her what was coming up, and she felt guilty because she was she's like, this is what I teach. I should know this already.
Yes.
No, it comes in layers. There's so much depth to it. So we never have to feel guilty that we haven't learned a lesson yet. We can just own where we're at and receive support for it. How I know when it's time to receive support is if something's carrying on for a few days and I haven't been able to shift it. So what I used to do is I would let something carry on for weeks, not feeling like myself, feeling unmotivated, uninspired, kind of getting out of bed and being all right, this is what's on the to-do list today. I guess this is just the space I'm in right now. And weeks would go by, and then maybe I would have catch up with a friend that's a coach, and she would kind of snap me out of it. And then I'd be oh, okay, phew. So now what I do is if a few days are going by and I don't feel like myself, I now know that I deserve to receive support. I don't just have to see if it's going to work itself out or see if I can meditate myself out of it. I deserve to feel how I want to feel. So I'll immediately go now to reaching out to support. And where I'm at and what's coming up for me will determine what kind of support I'm craving. So I'll just feel into it. I'll be at one point it was breath work, because breath work shatters stuff. It pumps stuff out of you.
Yeah.
So I was craving that. Now where I'm at, I'm craving a softness and a nurturing. So the person that I'm working with as my support now is just really gentle. At other points, you might not be craving that personal stuff. It might be more business, just holding you accountable to business. So it really depends to you who are listening, where you're at, what kind of support you're craving.
Yes. Alex just asked as well, do you ask the universe for help? What does that look like for you?
Do you ask the universe for help? I do, but could I be doing more? Yes, I think that's a beautiful thing to ask the universe for help. And I feel like by asking the universe for help, we're almost not even asking, we're just remembering that the universe is helping us already. So we're just like, oh yes, I trust the universe. I trust that the universe is supporting me. Everything is unfolding perfectly because it is always there. It's not like it's forgotten to help you and you need to ask again. It's what's happening for you is perfect. So that's what I'll say to that. And then could I be doing more? Absolutely. We are souls, but we're also humans. It's awesome to receive human support while we're here.
Yeah, and that reminds me of something, how you said the universe is always there. We forget that. We forget it's like the stillness, the inner guidance, it never leaves, only we do. Yeah. Right? Like that inner guidance never leaves. Yes. Only we do. Only we forget.
Yeah.
This might go on a little bit of not a tangent, but another question that I want to circle back to your CEO days, because I know that tool is going to blow everyone's mind and help so much. What advice do you have to people right now in that transition of I'm working this job, or I've been working, let's say corporate as one example, or I'm working in this industry or this environment that's not quite lighting me up anymore. And especially the more inner work I do, we start to feel that strong misalignment of I need to get out of here. This isn't my sole purpose. This isn't my work. I feel drained. Kind of that transition when they know there's something bigger, but they're not quite ready. But it's like, how do you go from there to there without your whole life being turned upside down, in a supportive way? And I was speaking to a friend this morning about it, actually, something to remind us all. I think this is before Vic answers that. To remind us all, it's like part of your work as light workers is to bring your energy and anchor that energy in whatever industry and environment you're in. Like bring your values into the work you're currently in right now. Like I think we forget that our whole life is our spiritual purpose in our work, let's call it. Not like, I clock on and off here and on and off here. It's like, what if your purpose right now is to elevate every environment you set foot in? Then it wouldn't matter where that was. So that's just something I want to add to everyone right now. If you're feeling like, I don't really know my purpose, or when I rock up to work, it's like this, bring your values, bring your energy, and just today practice this. Every room you walk in, have the intention of elevating the room with your presence and your energy. Just start there. That's part of our purpose as light workers, is we're needed in all industries, okay? Not just the spiritual personal development coaching world. That's just one way.
Amen. Right?
So circle that back.
I want to start by answering a personal story from that. So I don't know if you remember, Tracy, but when we were studying coaching together, I was in the coaching closet. I was so embarrassed about this new path. Aww. And I was working in corporate philanthropy at the time, which used to be aligned, but wasn't anymore. As you said, I was lifetimes ago. And I was in the coaching closet, wasn't letting anybody know that I was studying to be a coach, wasn't letting anybody know that this current work wasn't lighting me up anymore, and was like, oh yeah, I need 2 weeks vacation to go to Australia. Really, I was going to graduate as a coach. Got totally lit up and inspired by you and our other sisters there. And you're like, you need to come out of the coaching closet. You're here to be a light, even in that environment, exactly what you just said. So I went back, I did that. I let them know, and I really started letting my true self shine. What happened was my freaking boss at the time, who was this boss lady that I was so intimidated by, was like, she pulled me into her office for a meeting, and I was like, shit, I'm in trouble. She started breaking down crying and was like, Victoria, everything that you've been sharing about this new path is resonating with me so much. I was wondering if I could work with you. So that just goes to show, I just wanted to share that example around you don't just need to hide away this part of yourself. For the coaching industry, you can be your light wherever you are, or not even coaching, it's beyond coaching. But then to answer your question around how to make that transition, I would say 2 things there. One is it is allowed to look different for everyone. Yeah. Some people like to take the leap. Just I'm quitting. I don't know what next step is in front of me, but I'm excited for that unknown. I kind of want that fire under my butt to have to figure stuff out. That resonates with some people. For other people, that's not nice. And it's just going to put a lot of pressure on your shoulders for no reason. So if you want to just like work a side job for a while and just support yourself with other means so that you don't feel pressured, that's beautiful. So the transition looks different for everybody, and there's no right or wrong. And the second thing I would say circles back around to that idea of understanding what your mission is. What are you here to create? And once you get clear on that, everything else you're doing in your life and in your work is just a tool to support this.
Yeah.
So even if you're waiting tables or working in a corporate job, you don't have to be like, oh, this is so unaligned with my mission. It can be a tool to earn money, to help you invest in a coach and a website or whatever you need to bring your vision to life. So it's actually perfectly aligned.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. There's going to be so many people cheering for that, because it is the best feeling to be supported. And sometimes that looks like going to a part-time job that isn't necessarily your spiritual work. However, the feeling of that, how much that can just, settle your base chakras as one, get your creativity back, feel supported, feel like you can just breathe again. Yeah. God, that just, what looks like a step back is actually 3 steps forward.
Yes.
And if we can just not judge where it's coming from and be in that energy of bringing your energy into wherever you are, like that strengthens you so much to then go and be out on a stage or whatever's to come. Right?
Yeah.
Like use everything as an opportunity wherever you are right now. Like no one's judging you but you.
I know. It's so true.
So
and we judge ourselves so much.
Yeah.
And then the imposter syndrome comes in. It's like, well, I'm not this new thing yet if I'm still working this old job. Yes, you are the new thing. Own it.
Don't you dim down, girl.
Yeah, exactly.
So true. I'm just going to make sure that I haven't caught up on. I'm so glad this is helping. Guys, any questions, you guys, start typing away. If it could be, even if a question that's a little bit off track, but you feel like, we're in this space to riff on it. Estelle said, ask myself in those situations how I can bring my light to this in cafes, flight attending, cleaning houses. Yeah, beautiful. And that's the new way. If we are really here to raise consciousness, anchor light, we can talk all these spiritual things, right? How are we doing that every day? Let's get practical. How are we doing that in the real world where people are struggling, in the corporate environment where, people haven't got their heart open. They're not aware. They're not connecting. They're not present. They're up in their head all the time. They're highly anxious. They're striving. They're next thing, like if we're really in that higher mission of that's what we're all here to do in our own beautiful way, why are we labeling and judging where we're doing it?
Yes.
If it's all needed.
Yes.
And the same way as when we ask and we pray for the universe's help, and then we get a job offer and we're like, well, that's not fucking spiritual. That's not what I want. And it's like, it's all coming from the same source, people. It's all coming from here, like we just put a label on it. So like, open up.
Yeah. And the more we can be tuned into the long game, none of you in this course are here for short-term gains of like, I just want the money, I just want the acknowledgement, and then I'm out. None of you are in for that. We're in for the long game. Our whole lives are a mission. There's no rush. So we can take away that idea of like, it all needs to happen yesterday and just let it unfold. Yeah, sure, you can like put a little fire in, really motivate yourself, but don't feel the need to judge yourself for having it all overnight.
Yeah.
Freaking 6-figure, 100,000 followers. Yes.
And it's not enough until you have that, and you should be further ahead, and everyone else is so much further ahead than you.
Yeah.
And
you won't even be good enough when you have that, by the way.
Yeah, and then you'll go to the next number.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Garbage.
I was just going to say, what was I just going to talk about then? Oh, I'm going to answer these questions in a sec, you guys, but something I want to touch on here with you, Vic, because I feel like we've been in a similar transition over the last 12 months, 18 months maybe, of starting to actually slow down a little bit, not necessarily get less done or stop creating, but that inner feminine that is really trying to anchor. And I was saying this last night, like this whole Lightworkers group, you're all receiving right now. Sometimes it's not content, it's energetic, right? And it's like that softening. Like oh, I don't need to have it all together right now. I don't need to know every single answer, and I don't need to be making $1 million just because someone else is. I'm still enough. I'm still just doing my beautiful work over here. So what do you feel like has shifted for you in terms of understanding your feminine, Vic? Your feminine power, however you want to say it. I mean, God, this is a whole nother conversation, so let's just whatever's really juicy for you there. But what has shifted in your understanding of that, of knowing when to be fiery and on and creative, and then knowing when to also slow down and rest and create space and not feel guilty about that? Not always, because we're both quite driven A-type women. So we've been kicked in the ass quite a few times to learn this constantly, because we always feel like we need to be doing more and it's not enough, right? That's like built into us.
Yeah.
So what has been your unraveling of that, or anything that you feel you want to speak to on that, if anything, about your journey with that softening?
Yeah. So the first part was you and I both noticing that we would go on this roller coaster. So inspired, work so much, create, and then drop and like burn out. And then like back again. And we were like, we both were like, there's a pattern happening. And I don't like it. It feels really shitty. So for me, that was when I was like, okay, I want to shift this. And there were so many different pieces to it, but one thing that really helped me shift that was, again, coming back to clarity. What am I here to create? What do I actually want to bring to life? And what are the actual steps that are going to help me do that? And then letting everything else fall away. So suddenly, rather than the narrative of the more on my to-do list, the better, it was like, I only need a few key things on my to-do list that I know are a hell freaking full body yes. And I'm allowed to say no to the other stuff. And that was really hard at first. I would even get coaching inquiries, and it was going to be a lot of money and potentially beautiful collaboration. And I would just be like, I have a full calendar already. I don't want to feel burnt out anymore. I'm going to say no to this. And it was terrifying. And I did it. And then that spaciousness afterwards, there was nothing like it. Then we have more time to work on ourselves, stay anchored in our energy. And then that's where our biggest and most beautiful and impactful work comes from. So it was a journey for me.
And in that space, and this is something we're going to move into in our Power Month, is like spacious success, this new way that it isn't about having a big to-do list. It isn't about trying to do 45,000 different things because more equals more money. Not all the time, you guys. Like spaciousness is the energy of abundance.
Yeah.
You know? Overwhelm is not abundance. Stress, burnout is not the energy match of abundance, you know?
Yeah, and play around with saying no. Like, I remember I would get inquiries for, some people would be like, oh, could you type up a blog post for me on this thing that I saw you talk about? I would love to feature it. And in the past, I would have been in such a scarcity mindset of like, I have an opportunity, I have to take it. But this time I was like, if I'm honest with myself, writing that is going to take like 2 days. And it's not going to support my mission that much. So I'm not going to do it. And I remember when the first time I said no, I was like, So yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
So good. All right, I'm going to get to some of these questions and then we're going to talk on CEO. Okay, so Liz just wants to say, talking about going backwards, fully jumped in, moved across the country, and it was working up until a point, but it hasn't been sustainable. And then you took a sideways step. Amen, sister. And going back to your old industry, part-time, support yourself, while you're building your business. Just wanted to put that out there in case anyone else is in the same situation and was judging themselves for what looks like going backwards or looks like you've failed. Yes, we've recently spoke about this, Vic, as well, how sometimes opportunities come in that aren't in that new vision, or like it's extra support, you know, going back to using your other skills or qualifications. And sometimes your ego tricks you into, oh, am I going for my plan B here? And am I turning my back? Am I failing plan A? because sometimes maybe, yes, you're taking the easy way out, but a lot of the time, no, it's just that little oomph, you know, that's like just going to move you forward a little bit. So I love that you said that, Liz. It's like no one's ever failed anything if you go back to an old job or anything like that. It's like, what's your intention when you go back, and how can you strengthen your energy and, you know, bring your light into that environment, let's say, or strengthen your mindset, or bring in new skills, you know?
Yes. Yes. And on that, when we're making these decisions, I feel like we feel it's so final. And we're like, oh, if I take the job and then a little bit later it doesn't align, I'll be flaky. It's like, no, I remember we've both done that. And I remember one time you were like, this job opportunity came in and then you took it and you did it for a little while and it supported you. But then really soon after, you're like, this doesn't feel aligned anymore. And you were like, oh, I feel bad. But you let go of that and you ended the job, and then things shifted for you again. So I think we can let go of this story around like flakiness, and every decision I make has to be final.
Yes. So there's a question.
Edwina had a question. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just reading the one before that. If you're struggling to up-level your money story, but you're always surrounded by people saying there isn't enough money to do this and that. So everyone around you is in that lack mindset. Oh, you're talking about at work, I think. Sometimes I feel like I need to quit because I take it as a reflection. That's interesting.
Yeah. What you could do there is, if you really feel like I don't want to try and build up my abundance muscles in this environment, it's really not serving me, I have the option to quit. I have another option. If that feels right for you, yes. Mm-hmm. If that's not even really an option for you, another thing you could do, Lena, is when you're not in that environment, flex that freaking muscle. Listen to an abundance meditation every single morning before you go to work. Listen to it when you're on your lunch break. Listen to it when you're at your laptop, or whatever that looks like for you. Of just being like, okay, I hear this lack mindset, but on the inside, I'm flexing my freaking muscles so that you're balancing it out and really anchoring into what you know to be true.
Yeah. And I actually remember, like, not all environments you can do this, but I remember in some of the part-time jobs I would go back to, I would literally use them to plant seeds. So, yeah, like people would be complaining about something or gossiping or, you know, having, you know, oh God, just, there's never enough, whatever it might be. I would always be in that like compassionate but coachy a little bit way of like, I don't really get that. This is how I do that. And you could just see them be like, because usually in conversations, if you're in an environment, everyone just goes along with the same shit. Like you could say anything and they're like, yeah, same. Yeah, same.
Amen.
And it's like, it's not the fucking same for you. Like, your abundance mindset, like offer something, like use that as your light work in that environment. And you don't have to preach or anything like that. Like, let your energy do.
Like, I see it differently. Oh, interesting.
And they're like, what? You know, but just offer something up, like a new way of looking at something, or hey, what about what are 3 things you're grateful for if something's really gone shit today? Like, let's focus there. Like, use them as opportunities to fine tune your skills as well, right? Amen. How do you narrow down what your purpose is when you do several things within the field? Edwina's she does fertility work. However, she does other things as well. And does she need to be really clear on staying on one path?
Okay, I can definitely speak to this.
Yeah.
So because I do coach and strategizing for Humans on a Mission, so it's really about like bringing your soul into your business, and it can be very business oriented. And then all of a sudden I became a breathwork facilitator, and I'm doing like deep friggin' personal healing and energetic work. I remember being like, what? Am I allowed to do both of these things at once? Are people going to get confused? Like, is she a breathwork practitioner? Does she do business stuff? Like, what? So I remember being in that place, Edwina, and I think we're all dynamic humans. And this idea that, especially when it comes to niching, I understand niching from a marketing perspective, but can I just take a moment to say we are dynamic humans and we don't need to be freaking niched. Yeah. What you can do is like offer up one thing that people can kind of know you for and get comfortable with you for, because as humans, we like to have patterns to be like, oh, Edwina is a fertility person. And then on top of that, just let yourself bring in all of these other passions. And when you're, I think you said this the other day, Tracy, when you're in your conviction, people aren't going to get confused. They're just going to be like, I don't even understand what she does, but I want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
we get more in our head about it than our customers or our following or whatever. We're the ones that make it confusing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
And I think, sorry, keep going, Vic, you go.
No, you go. I insist.
Okay.
I'll remember.
No, you go. All I was going to say there was, I think so many of us think we're going to have that light bulb moment of like, this is my purpose, and it's written in stone, and then we know what we're doing for the rest of our life. Like, it's going to keep expanding, but know when it's time to close the door on some parts of your purpose or some parts of your offerings that have maybe served you up until now. You know, as you've been expanding your toolkit or refining your skills or refining your message or whatever, and know when to give space for what's really fresh and wanting to come through. Yeah. I think just knowing that, like, rather than be in, and it's not always lack, but sometimes of trying to do a bazillion different things, that doesn't feel grounded and nourishing for you as a human. So knowing that things are going to evolve and knowing what really excites you and what feels like your energy wants to go there and focusing there. But I think not having to be in that pressure of, I need to know what my purpose is in one sentence for my Instagram bio, and then I can never change it ever again. Which is, so many of us put pressure on ourselves to do that. It's like, how do you even do that? If you're a little light beam out in the world, just spreading your light wherever you are, you know, of course.
Love the Insta bios. Love the Insta bios. When I peep you and I'm like, whoa, Trace, things are shifting in your life, and I can tell because your Insta bios changed.
And now mine says labels schmabels because I can't be fucked deciding what
Love it. Love it. And that's it, where it's like, oh, from a marketing perspective, that's not smart. It's like, but all of your energy and conviction is in, so it is freaking smart.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to add on that question, Edwina, is, as you said, Trace, it's not like our sole purpose just gets written on the wall one day and we're like, oh, I know what I'm here to do. But we can, one thing a lot of us don't do when we're in our creative business mindset, a lot of us forget to take a moment and tap back into the soul level mission of what we are doing in our work. So even though the whole thing isn't going to be crystal clear at once, we can still tap back into that level of understanding. And that helps us to connect all of the dots of what we're creating down here. So you, for example, you can do like a really basic visualization around like, okay, when my soul was coming in to this body, it was sitting on that little cloud up there. It was getting ready to be born. It knew this wasn't going to be the easiest life, but it was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And like, you had all your soul fam around you, like pumping you up. What was it that you were so excited to do and stand for? So just tap into that soul level understanding. And then because it's such a higher level of your mission, being a fertility coach and whatever else you do is going to fit into that bigger picture. So it doesn't feel as fragmented anymore. It's like, oh, well, of course it makes sense for me to be a breathwork facilitator and strategist, business strategies, because I'm here to support change makers and humans on a mission.
Yeah, and I think as well, always just tuning in with, because sometimes even when we're actually doing our greatest work right now, and let's say in our purpose right now, we still have that ego tendency to question, yeah, but is this enough yet? Is this enough yet compared to that person? Like, is this enough? Is just, am I enough? Right? So it's kind of that ego story or that mindset thing of just feeling like no matter what you do, it's never enough. That's what can trip us up, I think. Yeah. When it's like, let's just anchor back into, I'm doing some pretty awesome stuff right now. And like where I am, I always say this, like where you are right now, you dreamed of being here a year ago, 2 years ago. We dreamed of having this call, Vic, 4 years ago with this amazing community. What? Like what?
Yeah.
Just anchor back into that.
Both of us could be tripping ourselves up right now for our next vision. We could, but we're not.
Crazy, eh? Mindy, I've recently started to work with my cycle in terms of action. Yes, find I really need that rest during your bleed. Yeah, and this is so beautiful that now we have the tools to learn about our cycles as a woman and link that up with the way that we create and work. And there's so many of you in this Lightworkers group that are working with your cycles. So I might get some of you to lead a call on that. Yeah, I'm going to plant that seed. Whoever wants to do their draft copy, leading and mentoring and teaching about cycles, let me know if there's a group of you, because you can lead a call for us. I'm just going to make sure we're getting all the questions. Love that you're already doing that. Amazing, 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 amazing. Everyone's working with their cycles. This is good. Nicole, I get concerned about getting stuck doing something I'm not loving. Yeah. Key message I'm feeling here is just to keep trusting. Yeah. A huge one on our path, right, Vic? Constantly. That self-trust. And you know, if you do go back or take a part-time job or some support, it's like Vic said, remember you're not there forever. Like, or if you take the leap now, if you just know in your body, like, I need to cut this out, or this needs to stop, or I need to leave this job, or I need to move across the state, whatever it might be. It's like, can you trust yourself in 3 months' time that you will know how to make an empowered decision? Or if you leave a job and it doesn't work out in 6 months, do you trust yourself that you can get a job and support yourself? Like, can you trust your future self will know what to do? You're smart, you're intelligent, you're intuitive, you know how to attract, you know? Like, can you trust your future self to make these decisions that feel quite scary now or uncertain right now? I think that's a good one to remember.
Beautiful.
You will adjust. Okay, I think everyone's just being like, yes, 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 yes to everything you're saying, Vic, I think. Hopefully that helped with some of the questions. Let's get into this juicy CEO Day, Vic, because this is one of your anchors, I could call it. Each month you do this. I think this is a game changer, and everyone write these things down that you're about to hear. But tell me about your, is it CEO Mission Day? I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, Mission CEO Day.
Yes.
So the idea is just because if it's CEO Day, people are going to be like, huh? And it sounds very corporate. So it's like being the CEO of your mission.
Yeah.
So how this came about was, I've already talked before about that little breakdown / wake up that I had around like, wow, I'm not doing things the way I want to be doing them. What is my mission? What are my values?
Yep.
What am I doing right now that's totally fluff, cookie cutter?
Yeah.
So I had that, and then I went on and kept working. And for the first little while, it was beautiful and so aligned. And then I found myself getting caught in old patterns again and just getting sucked in, as we do, because we're human and it's okay. And so I was like, oh my goodness, why? I'm the CEO of this business. Why am I just getting sucked into the to-do list and the administrative and the creation without actually taking that step back to check in with this higher level? My business deserves that. So I was like, okay, no more. We're making this regular. So I started clearing the first Monday of every month and just clearing the calendar. No calls on that day, no back end to-do lists. It's a wide open day. And it would be my Mission CEO Day. And it would be the day where I take off all the other hats in my business and just put on that higher level CEO hat. And I would change environments. I wouldn't work from where I usually work from to get, because environment stimulates old patterns of thinking. So I'd change my environment, turn my internet off, and go through a set list of check-in and alignment questions, both for myself and my business, getting 100% honest with myself. And that, it's so beautiful, because the narrative we have right now is like, you have to have a business plan and you have to stick to it.
Yeah.
Or screw business plans. They don't allow for flow. So it's just like this either or. So what I find is this is like a breathing, living business plan where you can just check in. If you forgot something, just remind yourself. Or if something's no longer in line and it needs to shift, let that happen now. So a few of the questions are, and I tell people, make your own questions. These are just the questions that were serving me, and I have a whole list. These are just a few of them. But come up with your own questions. What do you want to check in with yourself on in your business? What would feel so juicy for you to hold yourself accountable to? So the first one is, what paradigm am I here to shift? And are the activities that I'm spending my time on right now leading towards that? So that's, again, coming into like, wait a second, let's check in with the soul level stuff. This is one lifetime. I'm not going to be here for that long. What am I here to shift at a paradigm level? And is what I'm focusing on right now leading towards that? If not, reprioritize. If yes, woo, you're on fire. The second question is, do I feel how I want to feel? So it's like, yeah, I could be nailing all of those success boxes, but I could be freaking burnt out and not enjoying my life. So do I feel how I want to feel? I'm getting really honest with that. Mm-hmm. Am I saying yes to anything that's not a hell yes? This is huge because it brings in that honesty. And like sit with that question for a little bit. And at first you might be like, no, I'm totally intuitive and I only say yes to things that are aligned. But like really sit with that question and be like, is there anything on my plate right now that's not a hell yes? Is there any identity or truth that I've been hanging on to that I'm no longer aligned with? So that's something you were mentioning before, Tracy, is like something that was our truth before doesn't have to be our truth anymore. And is there anything that I'm ready to let go of? And then this last piece, you can create your own questions around living aligned to your values. So for me, one of my strongest values is that I'm spending a lot of time being, just sitting with my juicy self in my inner world. So one of my questions is, am I spending time being with myself, or has it just become a check that I need to check off every day? Okay, I did my 20. So those are some of my questions. And at first of every month, I sit down and check in with them. And my goodness, is it a full power way to like quickly stay aligned and just zoom forward.
Yeah. And it's like over time, like once a month, it doesn't really feel like that much, right? Like once a month, you're like, a lot can happen in that, but it's always just that fine tuning. And we change so much within a month as well, right? So
yes, so much.
That's why things that used to work now don't. And it's like, give yourself the space to sit with that. Something I just wrote down, because maybe I plucked this from someone's mind. They were thinking this. If something isn't a hell yes anymore, how do you go about changing that if it feels really scary? If that's the way you've always been, this is the way I've always done business. I've always been a people pleaser. I always say yes to everything. I've always put everyone else first. I've always had my prices at this, and now I'm scared that I'm going to lose all my clients if I put my prices up. How do you navigate that? Is it that trust thing? Is that I know that would come in, but when do you know when something is like, it's not fucking working and I'm scared to make the shift?
Yeah, beautiful question. One thing I would say is, don't feel the need to make all those changes in that CEO day. A beautiful part of the CEO day is just becoming aware and getting honest with yourself. And then from that self-honesty, you can let that self-honesty just unfold. So for example, in my CEO day, something that's coming up right now is, do I want to see one-on-one coaching clients anymore? Because I have all these other projects I'm birthing, and it takes a lot of my energy. I love it, but it does take a lot of my energy. So I'm just sitting with that now. And I'm not putting pressure on myself to make a change all at once. I'm just being really curious and really aware, and not letting that question fall to the background. So I've put it in my calendar for my next CEO day, so I remember to feel into it again. And then when I know the next step to take on that, I'll act on it. So that's one thing I want to say is, like, give time for things to unfold from that self-honesty. Don't feel like as soon as you get clear on something that's not aligned that you have to, I have to get this out of my life right now. Like it can unfold. And then the second thing is, yes, trust. I love what you said before, trusting our current selves, trusting our future selves.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one, because I speak from experience. Like recently I've stepped back from teaching Kundalini yoga, which has been such a massive part of my journey and my offering and my gifts and my purpose, I want to say, is to bring that. And it took so long for me to admit to myself that I wanted to break from teaching, because I'm going to let my students down. Who's going to teach them now? Like, I want to keep their energy moving. I want to help them. Like,
what are people going to wonder?
I only teach twice a week. So how dare I think I've got too much on my schedule, you know, all that stuff. But it's just that logical could go on forever. But like this inner voice and this inner knowing was like, you just need to step back for a little bit. Like, can you just trust yourself with this? You know, maybe you're trying to write a fucking book and you need some more space in your life. Who knows?
Yes.
You know, whatever's going to unfold. No worries, Tennille. Thanks so much for joining live, honey. We're going to wrap up shortly as well. Was there anything else I wanted to add? I think there's so much juice in that. Oh my God. Like, I'm going to go back and rewatch this and like re-listen to all of your things.
I kind of want to rewatch it too, just from like what you've been sharing. And it's
go write
cool.
notes from ourselves.
Yeah.
I think there's just one juicy question that we'd been talking about. If you want to kind of dot point some outdated versions of leadership, of being a coach, of being a teacher, of being, you know, on a mission, what are some outdated versions of that we're now softening or unlearning or unraveling that's, you know, can cause that little bit of resistance or tension for a little bit?
Yes. Oh, this is such a big one because it causes so much pain in so many of us. So there's an outdated version of success, which is still the dominant narrative.
Yeah.
That is, it needs to be more. It needs to be as big as possible, and it needs to be as much as possible and as soon as possible. So it's all of these maximizings. So it's like, okay, I need to have like 100,000 followers on social media. I need to be making six figures, if not multiple six figures. I need to have some sort of book deal. I'm not legit until I have a book. If not a book deal, like some sort of really legit speaking gig or published somewhere. So there's all of these, it's like huge, glamorous, maximizing. And the same with leadership. Am I a leader if I don't have a book? Am I a leader if I don't have this like million person platform of people signing up to my way of seeing the world?
Yes.
So that's the outdated version of success and leadership, which is still really affecting us because it's the dominant one. And there's this new form of success and leadership coming in, which is just around us knowing what our mission is, standing in the truth, speaking that, and feeling that enoughness of what is already. So you've got 250 people on your Instagram platform, and one of them is like really resonating with what you're saying. Why isn't that enough? Why isn't that enough? Nurture that. Soon it will become 2 people that are super engaged. Soon it'll just keep growing, but really sit with and nurture and lead what is already in front of us and let it be enough. And I love how you and I, in many ways, are examples of that, Tracy, because relatively our platforms aren't that big. And we don't have that many like shiny things attached to our work that people are like, that's definitely a success.
Yeah.
However, both of us are making a lot of money and get messages all the time from people that we have completely impacted and changed their lives. We absolutely love what we're doing, get lit up by it, and have a beautiful friendship in the work that we do, like surrounded by our soul family. So we are so freaking successful in this new paradigm, and it's enough for us. And the best, most beautiful part is from that new paradigm of enoughness and like letting things be smaller and more real, all of those big dreams that you might want will come from that.
Yes, because you've reverse engineered it, because you come from that inner success vibes, inner abundance. Yes. Like own cup full, right? And I think that's the thing with social media as well. You can almost convince yourself that you want big dreams when you actually fucking don't.
That's so true.
You can be in that matrix of I want that life. Like I want to be doing all those things. That's successful. But then when you really tune in, you're like, I actually don't want that. I just want this present time with my family, or I just want to have Fridays off. Yeah. Or I just want to spend.
I don't want a team of 50 people working under me. I don't.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, and like I used
to, and I don't want $5 million. Maybe I don't want that.
Yeah.
Every year. Like maybe I just like, can't be fucked to manage $5 million a year. That would be a lot of thinking. Like, yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah, but we convince ourselves, and we get into that thing of, you know. And I remember at the Earth S event that we're at together, when one of the teachers there, and I can't remember her name. She said, just concentrate on loving your own beautiful life. Yeah. Like, love your own beautiful life. Stop wanting someone else's life. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, heart feels for that. Yeah. It's so true, because we do convince ourselves that more, then I'm going to get there, then I'll be successful, then I'll be a coach, then I'll be, whatever, be up there. And it's like, go from the inside out, which is aligning with your values. Yes. How do you want to spend your days? Maybe it's really simple and beautiful, and that's enough.
Yes. Enough. And what I will say, just to round that off, is the question isn't, have I been programmed to that version of success and leadership? It's how have I been programmed? Because we are steeped in it every single day.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us to just take a moment and be like, how is this affecting me right now?
Yeah. So good. Sorry, I was just reading Liz's comment. Yeah. Simple is so beautiful. And I think so many of us have become disconnected from that. From our 3D, beautiful, humble, yummy lives where we cook dinner and we fold the fucking washing and we love our family and our friends and all those things. And it's like, have your soul mission that lights you up, but also have that lit up heart feels in whatever you're creating right now in your life.
And we're also not just here to be on a mission. We're also here to just like live and experience the full spectrum of human experience. So yes, it's okay for us to have spaciousness to just like do random things that have nothing to do with making the world a better place.
Yeah. Your purpose is to be you, all of you.
Love that quote.
Yeah. All right, beautifuls. Does anyone have any final questions that they want to ask away? Have a rest day. This is awesome. Man, I love this conversation so much, Vic, because I want to honor and celebrate both of us right now, but beam it to you in the growth that we have done in that feeling enough. Mm-hmm. And in that I don't have to be burnt out hustling 24/7, because you guys are watching this. I don't know if you followed us from the start of our journey, but we did hustle. That first couple years of coaching, like we were like on it all the time. Like we need to do more, we need to be more, we need to be out there, we need to be doing it. And
I need to post a blog post every week and then match it with a video and do this.
Much pressure on ourselves that I just want to take a moment to honor, let's call it the feminine in us that is now rebalancing, and recalibrating.
And the masculine rebalancing as well.
Yeah. And our relationship to both of that. Yeah. Just to be in this space to have a conversation about being in your purpose or on your mission, whatever you want to call it, but then also live a beautiful life in whatever way that looks for you. Isn't that so nice to just, I hope everyone's really receiving that energy behind that of more isn't always more and better. And it can be, if that's your truth, it can be, but love where you are right now. And I know that's fucking annoying to hear sometimes, because I remember being in points where I didn't want to hear that, but everything is coming. That creative energy is always moving. Just keep doing the work, keep tuning in, keep trusting yourself, keep taking little steps at a time, keep surrounding yourself with beautiful people who can just back you up and support you, and just nourish yourself.
Yes. And it's not going to take away from our ambition. It doesn't mean we can't desire creating other things. It's just that this is good enough and that will also be good enough.
Yeah.
So yes, fully amen.
And be in the yummy creation process as it comes. Yes. From the inside out. Oh, so good. My heart's feeling so happy right now receiving
And what
all
a
of your
beautiful
work.
group of people that you brought together. I've been loving your questions and your comments and affirmations. My goodness, what a beautiful community.
Everyone is amazing for sure. Reassured. I'm so glad. Yes. Collective breath out right now.
Ah.
You're so welcome, everyone. Thank you for being on this call, and everyone that's going to watch the recording, and probably all of us going back and watching the recording anyway. But collective hug right now. Everyone is doing amazing. You're exactly where you need to be. Beautiful new opportunities are going to drop in when they're meant to. So good. You guys rock. All right. Thank you so much.
To connect with you. Thank you for inviting me into this space. It's been an honor. I love you, Tracy, my sister, and I love the community of people you brought together.
Thanks, beautiful. Let's all go and celebrate Vic and love on her as well, on her Instagram, which is
Victoria_Bowman. That's where I'm most active, is on Insta. So if you want to connect with me, that's where I share most of my stuff.
Yeah. So beautiful, honey. Thank you so much. And everyone's just saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you guys for being in your receival. Have a beautiful rest of your Tuesday afternoon, evening. Some of you guys, it will be evening. So good. Thank you so much, honey.
Bye for now. Love you.
I'll speak to you soon. See you, everyone. Bye.